I love the fact that you get old and young together, and they eat together, which makes a difference because you've got time then to have the relationships. Over a quick coffee or a tea, you don't get that depth of sharing. So I love the fact that it's relaxed. I love the fact that we've got all areas of the congregation come into it. Before, we were doing family worships for quite a few years, and we actually went through a period where the church was thinking, do we keep going with breakfast church or family worships, or do we just go back to what older people like? And we actually changed and got the idea for the food, and it's the food that makes the difference.
For about 15 years in total, we've been exploring how to do family worship, or an all-age worshipy thing. Sometimes that was a bit more difficult than others. People didn't always see that working particularly well. But there was a heart to do it from a group, but there was also a group that kind of needed convincing that it was a good idea. Well, I think the church does have an understanding generally that it wants to be, it has to feed its young people and children and families, just finding a model that didn't seem to be dumbing stuff down. That was the problem. We're quite a spontaneous church, and sometimes I felt the family worship was a bit too planned, actually, which is quite interesting. So that was one of the tensions, I think. So I went and saw something somewhere else, and out of that, I kind of came back to the church and said casually, I think we should explore food and breakfast and that. And the leadership team said, yes, next month, you're on. And that was about as deep as it went. And it just changed the way the whole dynamic.
I like that families gathered around and everybody had a good time eating their breakfast.
I think as a group, as a family unit, as a church family, that eating together is really profound. That sharing of food, the way we've seen people bringing food for other people, serving one another, tidying up after one another, trying to look out for the youngsters, and parents who are kind of maybe trying to keep 3 or 4 children in the same space, and just realising that. So that family, a family that eats together stays together kind of thing. I think that's been really profound.
We did have a lot of resistance. We went with the food, and the food seems to make the difference. And the people that were very opposed to it now enjoy that eating with people with different ages, different backgrounds, and that relaxed atmosphere. So I think the food is the thing that's changed, and it's helped build relationships.
It doesn't fit everybody. There are some people who still don't quite get it, but they don't stop it. They're supportive, even if it's not for them. But a lot of people have found it a really good way of inviting people into church.
I think it's helped. It's quite easy to bring people along to because it's quite a relaxed service, especially for families and young children, because it's very child friendly, so you can bring them along. People, like children at school, will tell their friends and bring them along. And it's just a very relaxed and calm atmosphere, but also it's fun and family friendly.
I think the main barrier is finding the style that actually works. So we've done things where we've had everybody together for a while and then separate out. So we've done a bit of teaching and then got into age-related groups. So we've had that, and it didn't quite work for us. We've had other people where I have times rather when we used a lot of drama. So we've worked hard at producing, almost like a series, so drama at the beginning and all that kind of stuff, and that quite labour intensive. And a lot of young people are quite anxious around adults. They don't always like that interaction. So it's not just adults who had issues. It was some children and young people not really wanting to be in church with adults. Just finding a model where that would work. And this, I think, food answers a lot of those questions.
I think it's given all of us a new perspective of the way God sometimes works. I mean, it's a totally different organisation, really, for breakfast. And it just shows me, and it shows a lot of people, I think, particularly those of us who are older, that we are able, in a way, to worship together, and not in the normal way that church is thought of. And that, I think, has broken a few barriers, really.
Well, Jesus seemed to use stories a lot in his teaching method. He taught his disciples by telling them stories. You see that, let me tell you what that can be. So we use story a lot, and also encouraging people to share their stories, because somebody else may be going through a similar story or a similar event in their lives, and it just affirms people. It's hard to argue against somebody else's story in that sense, not, so that it becomes, yeah, I can see that, and it gives space afterwards for people to follow up on the story, to ask more questions. So I think, yeah, stories are a really important part of how we can communicate and encourage and build one another up.
We're a family, and it is multi-age, multicultural, and it's the relationships that have changed because people are with each other, they're eating together, they're sharing together, and that made it a huge difference. That's helped heal a lot of relationships where there was some tensions beforehand. If they were a little bit, someone was grating or on your nerves, or someone wasn't quite sitting comfortably, it's the relationship of sitting and eating and then having quite a relaxed, fun time at church. God has a sense of humour.
It gives us more of a chance to know people, I think, at a different level. So although I did an Alpha course and I'm in a house group, you don't get the same sort of family atmosphere there, but when you see people with their children or their grandchildren or extended family, because they all tend to come to the family services, then I think, or the breakfast services, and I think it makes a difference. You know them on a different level then. You know them as a person rather than a face you see at church.
And almost all of my church background has been involved in doing stuff on Sunday mornings where we've been in and then gone out from the church. And there's a part to play about teaching and making things relevant, but actually one of the things I've really reflected on over the last 5-6 years is how actually young people stay connected because they belong. Like all of us, we need a sense of belonging, and if the youth group is what they belong to when they grow out of the youth group, what do they belong to? Whereas if they feel they belong to the church, they feel they belong and therefore more likely to stay. So that encourages the whole church.